headlines of this hour on VTV News. State President's visit to tighten Vietnam-Peru bilateral ties. And rice exports reach $5 billion milestone. In our world news, Biden and Trump hold White House transition meeting.
Broadcasting from Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. VTV News starts right now.
Good afternoon. It is 3 p.m. local time in Hanoi, and you're watching VTV News. I'm Huyen Trân with the top stories. On Thursday morning, Party General Secretary Tô Lâm visited and provided encouragement for the officers, soldiers, and residents of Bạch Long Vĩ Island District in Hải Phòng City, the most remote island in the Gulf of Tonkin.
During the visit, General Secretary Tô Lâm paid tribute to fallen heroes of Bạch Long Vĩ Island by offering incense and flowers at their memorial. He also visited the officers and soldiers stationed on the island and attended the groundbreaking ceremony for the construction of official quarters, a dining hall, an infection control building at the Bạch Long Vĩ Military Civilian Medical Center. General Secretary Tô Lâm expressed deep gratitude for the efforts of generations of officials, soldiers, volunteers, and local people in building and protecting Bạch Long Vĩ. The General Secretary proposed a comprehensive planning approach for military zones, economic zones, and ecological areas. He stressed the need for coordinated investment to harmonize economic development with the strengthening of national defense and security. The party chief particularly highlighted the need to improve the quality of life for the island's dwellers and called for attention to high-end tourism, seafood farming, and ecosystem preservation. He envisioned turning Bạch Long Vĩ into a key fishing logistics hub and search and rescue center for the northern region. During his visit, General Secretary Tô Lâm also presented gifts to officers, soldiers, and citizens of the island. Earlier that morning, he inspected 2 patrol boats donated by the South Korean Coast Guard. He also checked a firefighting and rescue vessel provided by Hải Phòng City Police.
Early Thursday Vietnam time, State President Lương Cường received an official welcome from Peruvian President Dina Boluarte, marking the beginning of his state visit to Peru. The visit coincides with the 30th anniversary of diplomatic relations between the two countries. State President Lương Cường affirmed Vietnam's high regard for Peru as a close friend and important partner in Latin America. He congratulated Peru on hosting the APEC summit for the 3rd time, expressing confidence in its success in promoting prosperity and cooperation in the Asia-Pacific region and further enhancing Peru's regional standing. Both leaders celebrated the strengthening of bilateral relations through ongoing high-level exchanges across various party, state, and local channels. The Vietnamese state president also highlighted the potential for deeper economic collaboration, encouraging Peru to support Vietnamese businesses, including Viettel, in investing effectively in Peru's development. On this occasion, State President Lương Cường extended an invitation to Peruvian President Boluarte to visit Vietnam officially, which she graciously accepted. Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính joined residents of Block 8 Nasam Town, Văn Lãng District, Lạng Sơn Province to celebrate National Great Unity Day. On behalf of the party and state, the Prime Minister extended heartfelt greetings and commended Block 8 residents for their strong community spirit and solidarity in overcoming challenges. Their efforts have led to local economic development and the completion of site clearance for the Đồng Đăng Trà Linh Expressway project. The Prime Minister encouraged the people to uphold the spirit of unity and strive for even better results each year. He called on Lạng Sơn and other border provinces to further combat poverty, eliminate temporary and dilapidated housing, and address transportation bottlenecks. Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính also stressed the importance of promoting solidarity with neighboring countries like China, encouraging both nations to leverage their strengths for mutual support and growth. The National Assembly Standing Committee began its 39th meeting in Hanoi on Thursday morning, chaired by National Assembly Chairman Trần Thanh Mẫn. In his opening remarks, the National Assembly Chairman stated that the session scheduled to last 3 days would focus on reviewing, clarifying, and amending 9 draft laws discussed in the first part of the 8th session. He underlined the importance of converting the party's resolutions into clear legislative provisions for effective government action. He also highlighted the need for prompt and efficient decision-making, ensuring that feedback, especially for laws slated for a one-session review, is thoroughly and carefully considered. Also on Thursday morning, the Standing Committee voted to approve a draft resolution on the restructuring of district and commune-level administrative units in 12 provinces and cities. Additionally, the committee agreed to seek National Assembly deputies' input on the proposal to move fertilizers from a tax-exempt category to a 5% taxable rate under the revised value-added tax law. Vietnamese consumers are increasingly embracing online shopping. A recent report by Metric shows that in the first 9 months of this year, online spending in Vietnam reached $9.5 billion, a nearly 38% increase compared to the same period last year. As e-commerce continues to grow, there is an urgent need to create a more level playing field, offering greater opportunities for domestic businesses and small traders to compete.
For each item, like this shirt, the store must cover design costs, pay for production, and fulfill all tax obligations under Vietnamese law. However, current regulations exempt imported goods through e-commerce valued under 40 USD from taxes. This creates a challenge for domestic businesses competing with cheap, tax-exempt imports. Stronger policies are needed to better regulate taxes and customs for low-value imported goods.
It's necessary to amend certain legal documents, including Decision 78 on tax exemptions for express shipments and imports. This would prevent sellers from splitting shipments into smaller parts to avoid taxes.
The General Department of Customs has issued a notice instructing local customs authorities to reject goods shipments lacking information about the website or cross-border e-commerce platform. Additionally, goods from unregistered websites or platforms should not be cleared, even if they provide the necessary information. This includes platforms that have operated in Vietnam for a year or more, but haven't completed registration or fully complied with Vietnamese e-commerce laws.
Unregistered e-commerce platforms operating in Vietnam face fines ranging from 1,500 to 3,900 USD. Since these platforms have no physical presence in Vietnam, administrative measures have not been fully implemented.
Better coordination between ministries would help prevent this.
Strengthening the legal framework for e-commerce is crucial to helping Vietnamese businesses compete with the influx of cheap imports. The Ministry of Information and Communications, along with the Ministry of Industry and Trade and the Ministry of Public Security, is working to crack down on foreign e-commerce platforms that have failed to register in Vietnam, despite repeated reminders. These efforts aim to create a more level and competitive e-commerce environment.
Vietnamese sectors such as wood processing, footwear, electronics, and textiles are seeing a surge in export orders for the end of the year and the upcoming new year. The final 2 months of the year are expected to be a peak period for exports to major markets like the US, Europe, and traditional partners. In Bình Dương province, a survey of over 400 manufacturing and processing businesses shows that 84% of companies expect trends to improve and stabilize in the fourth quarter of this year. Over the past 10 months, Bình Dương export turnover reached nearly $28.5 billion, up more than 13% compared to the same period last year. Now, according to the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, Vietnam's total rice export volume over the past 10 months has reached nearly 7.8 million tons, earning approximately $4.86 billion. This figure has already surpassed last year's total export value. At this pace, the the $5 billion target for this year is considered highly achievable.
This company has increased rice exports by about 200% compared to last year, with potential for further growth as the company expands into new markets.
There's big foreign interests. We are expanding into markets such as Canada, Australia, Ghana, and the Middle East.
Alongside market expansion efforts, many other companies are improving the quality of their exports. Rather than exporting generic rice, they are sourcing high-quality varieties, which means higher selling prices.
We're focusing on high-quality rice for markets like the EU, the Middle East, and the US. We make trips every month to keep up with orders. We're selling premium rice at 670 to 680 USD.
Over the past 10 months, the export price of rice has increased by around 12% compared to the same period last year. Although India has eased its rice export restrictions, Vietnamese rice still maintains a competitive advantage, especially if quality remains stable.
By the end of the year, we can export 7.5 to 8 million tons. To exceed this number, we will need to source additional rice. While rice prices may fluctuate, Vietnamese companies can stabilize their export volumes.
To further enhance the competitive edge of Vietnamese rice, building a high-quality brand is essential. Consequently, the 1 million hectare low-emission rice project holds great export potential in major global markets.
Now, before we move on to other important updates, let's take a look at the foreign exchange rates of today, November 14th. Coming up next on VTV News. Households affected by typhoon aftermath receive support to rebuild lives. And Om Bok Boat Racing Festival, it kicks off. Phie aims to completely resolve the issue of 3 no fishing vessels, which involves vessels without inspection, registration, or fishing licenses by November 20th. Officials in districts, towns, and cities must meet owners of vessels with expired licenses in person to support them in completing the necessary procedures. Non-compliance cases will be strictly handled according to legal regulations. The Phie Fisheries Subdepartment will also explore ways to streamline the registration and inspection process for fishing vessels. The border guard will prevent 3 no vessels from going out to sea. And currently, Phie still has 474 3 no fishing vessels. Nghệ An province is ramping up efforts to tackle illegal, unreported, and unregulated or IUU fishing. Many local fishermen have now recognized the importance of adhering to fisheries laws, with the lifting of the European Union's yellow card seen as a step toward more sustainable practices in the fishing industry.
Complying with fisheries regulations before heading out to sea has become routine for fishermen in Nghệ An province. From port departure procedures to equipping vessels with monitoring devices and reporting catch data, fishermen now ensure full compliance with regulations.
We follow government regulations. We have our logs stamped. And when we go out to sea, we fish on the fishing designated routes, and our tracking device is always on.
Diễn Châu district in Nghệ An province has nearly 1,000 fishing boats. To date, the district has eradicated illegal fishing practices, and all fishing boats now maintain proper tracking systems, ensuring there are no violations in foreign waters.
When we return, we must report to the port and get the official stamp, reporting how much we've caught. They guide us thoroughly and provide all the paperwork for inspection when we head out to sea.
We have mobilized our personnel and equipment, met with each boat owner to explain the regulations, and ensured all procedures are followed, including verifying the equipment on vessels.
With increased awareness and strict monitoring by authorities, fishermen's understanding of regulations has improved significantly, contributing to Vietnam's national efforts to lift the yellow card on fisheries.
Tens of thousands of households across Lao Cai province have suffered housing and livelihood losses in the aftermath of Typhoon Yagi. In response, local authorities have swiftly implemented policies to assist residents in repairing their homes, providing agricultural resources, and offering guidance on restoring livelihoods.
Chao Ong Lai's house was damaged by the disaster. Thanks to the support from local authorities and the Vietnam Fatherland Front, his family was relocated to temporary housing and provided with a breeding cow and financial aid to support their daily lives.
I will try my best to feed the cow and help it grow and breed so that it can support my family's livelihood.
Nearly 30 households affected by Typhoon Yagi in Nam Cha village have also received cows and financial aid to help them overcome hardships and gradually recover their livelihoods. So far, over $14 million have been raised for disaster relief efforts, enabling residents to stabilize their housing, repair infrastructure, and improve agricultural production.
We have allocated nearly $850,000 USD to localities to support the provision of livestock, crop seeds, and fisheries to ensure people can resume agricultural production.
By the end of 2023, more than 45,100 households in the province were living in poverty or near poverty. With continued support from the community, these people will soon have stable homes and better resources to rebuild their livelihoods and improve their lives.
Located in Lao Cai province, the mountainous border district of Simacai attracts visitors not only with its majestic natural scenery, but also with the unique cultural characteristics of its population, more than 93% of whom belong to ethnic communities. Through creativity and passion, many young people are gradually bringing their traditional culture beyond the boundaries of their villages.
Since starting her business in 2016, Giang Thị Cha has breathed new life into traditional Hmong costumes. Through social media platforms, she has introduced these designs to customers both at home and abroad.
Market fairs were a lot of work, and people would only buy my products around Lunar New Year, so I decided to post them on social media. Since then, I've been able to reach many young people from different places, including the US, Thailand, Laos, and France.
As international orders increase, Cha has recruited various local women, providing them with stable jobs and incomes.
I was assigned the task of bead threading, and I'm very happy that Ms. Cha has provided me with a job, which helps improve my family's economic situation a bit.
Through social media, Giang A Khai and Liu Thị Thanh Phương have also promoted the Hmong's traditional musical instrument. Khai meticulously finishes each detail by hand to ensure that each khen brought to the market retains its distinctive sound quality.
These musical instruments are priced between 98 to 200 USD. I make about 10 of them per month. They're quite easy to sell. I'm committed to making this kind of instrument for two main reasons. First, to preserve Hmong culture, and second, to support my family.
My husband and I created an online channel to spread awareness and increase demand. I also help him record videos. I'm really happy that our videos have been viewed by many people.
Despite facing numerous challenges in starting businesses, young people in Simacai remained resilient. They are gradually bringing a fresh perspective to their cultural heritage.
Young people in Simacai district, especially those from ethnic groups, are dynamic, creative, and bold in their entrepreneurial endeavors. I believe they are on the right path, leveraging and preserving the traditional cultural values of their communities. We are actively encouraging and supporting them.
The Simacai District Party Committee has issued a plan to preserve and promote the cultural heritage of ethnic groups alongside efforts to boost tourism development through 2025. These young people not only contribute to preserving and promoting the traditional beauty of their culture, but also helped attract tourists and drive local economic development.
The Om Bok Boat Racing Festival, a significant cultural event for the Khmer community, opened Wednesday night in Sopchang as part of the 6th Mekong Delta Om Bok Festival and the first Sopchang Cultural, Sports and Tourism Week. Held from November 9th to 15th, the festival honors Khmer traditions and promotes local culture and tourism through activities like the moon worship ceremony, boat racing, and lantern floating. This year's celebration also sets a new record for Vietnam, with 200 artists performing in 25-tone musical ensembles, a traditional music form. The art program includes 12 performances showcasing Khmer cultural practices, unity among ethnic groups, patriotism, and gratitude to President Ho Chi Minh. The moon worship ceremony aims to instill gratitude in younger generations, while boat racing fosters community spirit and resilience, embodying the festival's deep cultural significance for the Khmer people. Coming up next in our world news, Biden and Trump hold White House transition meeting. And Colombian minister calls for overhaul of financial system to tackle climate change. Now moving on to our world news. On November 13th, U.S. President Joe Biden and President-elect Donald Trump met at the White House to discuss the power transition process, national security issues, and domestic policies. President Biden congratulated Donald Trump on his victory and pledged to ensure a smooth transfer of power. Regarding the new cabinet appointments, the president-elect officially announced Marco Rubio as his choice for Secretary of State and former Democrat Tulsi Gabbard as Director of National Intelligence. He picked Matt Gaetz for the important cabinet position of Attorney General. These nominations still require confirmation by the Senate, where Republicans hold the majority. Colombia's Environment Minister Susana Mohammed called for a complete overhaul of the global financial system to better address climate change and the widening gap between developed and developing nations. More in the following.
In a speech delivered at the COP29 Climate Summit in Baku, Colombia's Environment Minister, Susana Mohammed, urged an overhaul of the global financial and economic system to adequately tackle climate change.
They are not evaluating the debt based on the current climate situation. They continue in business as usual. And right now, countries that emit the most and countries that use more fossil fuels are more rewarded economically than countries that are trying to make this shift. And this shift cannot be done by any country alone. I mean, Colombia is in the worst situation because it depends on the exports of fossil fuels, but it's not a major oil producer. It doesn't have huge reserves.
In her speech, Muhammad also emphasized the disparity between developed and developing countries in the battle against climate change, as developed nations have access to cheaper financing and are better able to transition to renewable energy.
If we continue in the same paradigm, that the financial structure and that the economic structure can continue the same for us to tackle this crisis, then at the end we will not be really resolving anything. And that's why year after year, what we see is that we are failing. We really need a reform that is deep and that puts the financial system and the logic and the rules of the game, the economic rules of the games, at the scale of this crisis.
Although financing for developing countries is a good step, due to the scale of the problem, international climate cooperation is needed in the long term. This requires not only efforts from developing countries, but also commitments from developed nations to overcome the global problem of climate change.
Air pollution levels in two South Asian countries, India and Pakistan, have reached dangerous levels, posing a serious threat to public health. In New Delhi, India, air quality is more than 50 times worse than the daily maximum limits recommended by the World Health Organization. Residents have been advised to wear masks, limit outdoor activities, and avoid exercising outside on days when air quality is particularly poor to protect their lungs. In Lahore, Pakistan, around 1,000 people have been hospitalized due to severe breathing difficulties, intense coughing, and eye irritation. Local authorities have announced the closure of schools, parks, zoos, historical sites, museums, and recreational areas until November 17 as part of efforts to mitigate the effects of hazardous air quality. Climate change is the primary driver behind the threat of extinction for nearly half of the coral species living in warm waters. According to the International Union for Conservation of Nature, IUCN, rising ocean temperatures have accelerated widespread coral bleaching events, threatening vital marine ecosystems and the livelihoods of communities that depend on them. The organization is urging negotiators at COP29 to take immediate actions to reduce emissions from fossil fuels and curb global warming to prevent further damage to these critical habitats. Now, as usual, let's move on to the weather forecast. And that's all the news we have for this hour. To rewatch our program, you can download our mobile app VTVgo or check out our YouTube channel, VTV4Go. Thank you for watching and see you next time.